Okay, so here's a pie chart that we have to interpret to get some information from. So we've got the usual circle, 360 degrees altogether, and they're asking us what fraction of the people named Rovers as their favourite team. Well, for this one, they've been quite nice. They've given us a right angle symbol, and we recognise in a full circle that means it's a quarter of the circle. If we didn't know that, then we'd be able to find out the fraction by writing it as what you'd expect a fraction to look like, two numbers on top of each other, a numerator and a denominator, the angle being 90 for the Rovers out of the 360 altogether, and we'd then find we'd get the fraction we wanted, so 1/4 here. The question then goes on and tells us that there's 20 people named City as their favourite football team. So we know that there are 20 people within here. So if we want to find out how many named Rovers, then these 20 people are represented by this angle for this sector. So the first thing we need to do is work out the angle for this particular sector. So we know the whole pie chart is 360, and we're going to have to subtract the angles they gave us. So we're going to subtract the 42, we're going to subtract the 90, and we're going to subtract the 108. So on our calculators we'd find we're going to subtract 150, 240, so we're left with 120 degrees. So that means that the City sector is represented by 120 degrees, and it tells us for 20 people. So what we can do is we can find out that for each of those 20 people, we can do 120 divided by 20. Each of those people required 6 degrees of the pie chart. So when we asked, the question asked us to work out what it is for Rover, then we found there were 90 degrees for the whole of the Rover sector, and if we do 90 share by 6, then that will tell us how many people were represented by the Rover sector. So in this case 90 share by 6 is 15 people. So when we want to interpret a pie chart, then quite often we have to find a fraction, and that's just the two numbers on top of each other, the angle over the whole pie chart of 360. And if we know some information about a sector, then we can do a relationship between the number of degrees and the number of items, or the number of people in this case. So hopefully that's helped you to see how you can interpret this kind of question. Now, as another example, here we have a question that basically has given us two pie charts now, and it's telling us the cricket team won 15 matches. So that's telling us that the one section is worth 15 people. So 150 degrees represents that. So what we need to find out is how many degrees of the pie chart is representing one game in this particular case. So if we do 150 divide by 15, that tells us it's going to be 10 degrees per game on the cricket pie chart. So when it says how many matches did the cricket team lose, then we can look at the pie chart, and it tells us that 120 degrees represents the lost sector. So if we do 120 divided by the 10 degrees per game, then we find that 12 games were lost. We're then asked down here to which team won the most matches last year, and we've got to choose one of the options. Well, to work out the number of games that were lost or won or drawn, then we'd need to know, like in the cricket team, they gave us some information about how many matches. The hockey team, all they tell us is the proportions, how many degrees represents the sectors for one. And we can see clearly, for example, that the hockey team won more than they lost or drawn because of the size of the sector. But it doesn't tell us how many games at all. There's no information on the hockey team pie chart about the number of games, just the proportions of how many won, lost and drawn. So the answer for this particular question has got to be there's not enough information. And the reason would be is quite simply to say hockey pie charts, no information on number of games played, and that would be enough for the mark.